best bet for finding the online sportsbook or casino that's right for you. Make sure you check it out now at betting.net. I am your host for the NFL Prediction Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my three esteemed co-hosts. First up, we've got Joe Spillman. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great. How are you, Mike?
Oh, that's great. Just great banner, Joe. Way to go.
I'm doing great. I don't know what you want from me.
Just a little bit of freaking personality, Joe.
Well, Mike, I'm back from Buffalo. What a shithole of a city that is. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Buffalo's a shithole. Their stadium's a shithole. Their fans are shitty. The Bengals beat that ass. I'm happy.
Okay, so I guess I won't post this on the Bills Mafia site. All right, next up, we've got NFL beat writer Dan Kornhauser. How you doing, Dan?
Totally frozen. That's not.
You're totally frozen, Dan. Just like your favorite movie. All right, we're going to move on from Dan since he's a dipshit. And we've got 1981 national champion Steve Risley, who right now is actually hanging out in France by the Champs-Élysées, and him and his wife were drinking wine, and he decided he would call in and go ahead and be on the show. How you doing, Steve?
Doing great. Actually, I'm not. I'm at home. I'm in bed recuperating. Should be my last week of this, so I'll be back. But the FBI told me I could not use a live camera because I have too many boxes of top secret documents in the bedroom here with me that I got from Mike Pence
Pornhub.
And
they got it from
Donald
Pornhub.
Trump and Joe Biden.
All right, Steve.
So they're all here, and the FBI said I can do audio but no video.
All right, Steve. All right, let's go ahead.
The whole thing about me being in Paris was a cover set up by the FBI, so the Russians wouldn't know where to find me.
All right, Steve.
Actually,
we should have just went with my bullshit story to have a little bit of fun instead of dragging us into a 10-minute diatribe about some bullshit you did and didn't do, you dumbass. I just said that, Steve, because we haven't had you on the show in a while, and I wanted to start it off with the dumbass.
Hey, Mike.
Mike. What? Watch your language. Watch your language, Steve.
Have you ever flown on Air Force One?
No, but I have been in a Turkish prison.
I've flown on
I
Air
saw
Force
snakes
One.
on a plane.
Yeah. I'd rather see snakes on a plane. Well, snakes on a plane is Air Force One, isn't it? They're politicians.
Snakes on that plane.
Well, they're all snakes if they're politicians. And people
Where's
that hang
Dan?
out with politicians are snakes too. I don't know. Dan just disappeared because he was
Dan was like, screw it. I'm not doing this show.
Dan's watching the newest episode of Jersey Shore.
All right, so let's go ahead and start talking about the conference championship weekend, guys. And we're going to look back at last week's divisional playoffs, where we had two competitive games, two not so competitive games. Anything surprise you, or was it kind of the way you expected, Steve?
No, I think it went pretty well the way you expected it would go. I think, to me, the biggest surprise, and I think it just bears out now to be the truth, is how easily Cincinnati beat Buffalo. That was, I mean, in a week of everybody that you expected to win kind of won. The fact that the ease of which Cincinnati really sets Cincinnati up is probably the favorite to win the whole damn shebang this year, because they really knocked Buffalo down a notch. So other than that, I think we expected the Giants to lose. I think that the San Francisco Cowboys game bared out to be the most competitive, or the most closely, but neither team I think is a contender to win the Super Bowl. One of the two, or will be in it, obviously, probably. But so be it.
What the hell was that, Steve?
What?
That made no sense at all. Are you Tony Romo? Tony, is that you?
Yeah.
All right. My takeaway here is this. If the Dallas Cowboys ever want to be good, Dan, and by good, I mean possibly win a Super Bowl, they're going to need somebody other than Dak Prescott, because that was a game that was fairly evenly played Brock Purdy didn't play well necessarily. He just didn't turn the ball over. Dak turns the ball over twice. Dallas Cowboys basically crapped a bet again because of Dak. And then you've got the Twitter feed from the Cowboys even ripping on Dak Prescott. How do you recover from this if you're the Cowboys and Dak Prescott?
Hey, I know. You go get Tom Brady to be your quarterback.
Okay, Dan, do you want to bring us some common sense here?
Now, I honestly, I don't know what Dallas can do at this point. They're one of those teams that's in no man's land at this point. They're stuck between not being butt enough to do anything about the quarterback position in the draft, yet they're not good enough as they're currently constructed with Dak at quarterback to be considered one of those upper echelon teams. They're just not quite right. And I don't know if it's a Dak problem. I don't know if it's a McCarthy problem. I don't know if it's maybe a little bit of both. All I know is they can't win a chip as they're currently constructed.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead. And I'm going to start with asking the questions here. We've got Joe Spillman, who was our man on the scene in Buffalo, which he said was a shithole. The Cincinnati Bengals are favored by 1.5 against the Kansas City Chiefs. How do you see this game?
I got one thing to say before you go on. Did any of you see Jerry Jones's yacht?
His yacht?
Oh, my God. It makes the Titanic look like a dinghy.
A dinghy?
It's a big boat.
275 feet of sheer luxury.
Is that large for a yacht?
That's large for the Titanic.
Is it large for a dinghy?
He's got about 12 dinghies on that damn yacht. Oh well.
Steve likes dinghies, so he brings that out.
Google Jerry Jones's yacht when you get a chance.
All right, Joe Spillman, how did the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Cincinnati Bengals?
Well, I mean, when Kansas City Chiefs could beat the Cincinnati Bengals on any given day, they're a good football team. I think I don't know. I don't know one specific thing that you could sit and say this is what they have to do to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Cincinnati Bengals right now, I think their defense is on fire. I think they have the best red zone defense left in the playoffs. I think they had the best red zone defense before the playoffs began in the whole NFL. Their coverages are great right now. Luana Romo is they call him the mad scientist for a reason. He's very good at disguising coverages. Their run stop right now is just incredible. I know you and I got into discussion earlier today about Cincinnati having a hard time setting the edge, and if they're going to have an advantage, if Kansas City's going to have an advantage this week, it'll be just that, and that's being able to run off tackle. But at the end of the day, I think right now, when you look at this game as a whole, offensively and defensively, I know Patrick Mahomes is saying he's going to play. If he is, he's superhuman because the
injury's not as bad as
the injury's not as bad, and he's a big ass fuck. Or sorry,
watch your language.
He's a damn liar and a wimp for limping as much as he did in last week's game against the Jags. So if he has a high ankle sprain, I don't know how he moves around the pocket and plays his game. And I really think that this is going to be a tall order for the Kansas City Chiefs to overcome this week if Patrick Mahomes can't play. And if they are just playing him because he's Patrick Mahomes, I think at the end of the day, Henny didn't look bad when he got in against the Jags. I think if I'm them, if Mahomes isn't 100%, I think you have to look at that as an option. But right now, I think the Bengals are firing on all cylinders, and this is going to be a tall order for the Chiefs to compete Sunday.
I don't believe that. I don't believe it's a tall order. I believe that the way they played offense the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season can give the Bengals issues if the Bengals don't defend it right. What I mean is they go a lot of the trips bunch formation. They put the running back on the same side. They'll put one wide receiver down to the bottom of the screen. So what they do is they create something that's similar to an RPO. Well, it is an RPO where you got two of these dudes blocking out of the trips. The other one will run a screen. If you put 3 guys over there to defend it, they're going to throw it and beat you. If you put 4 guys over and keep your linebacker in the middle, then they're going to run the ball because they've created numbers on these short side of the field.
Well,
So the question is, how do you defend that?
Well, Mike, but also a large part of their offense comes from Patrick Mahomes creating chicken salad out of chicken shit.
See,
I
disagree
he does that a
this
lot.
year. I disagree because of this. We're talking about the way they can win this game. And the thing is, if Patrick Mahomes is 100% and they play all the time where they're just free, they're throwing the ball, the Bengals will beat them because Lou Anarumo knows how to beat that. My question is this. This is a formation the Bengals haven't seen. My other question is Andy Reid willing to go win a championship game by just running the ball?
No, he's
in
not.
Philadelphia, he played in 6 or 7 straight NFC Championship games where his refusal to run the ball and just to throw it and try to look like the smartest man in the world cost them games. It's also happened with the Chiefs. Pacheco is a very good running back. He's a slasher. If you remember last year against the Tennessee Titans, Foreman carried the ball, and he was a slasher. He carried the ball 5 times for 65 yards. But for some reason, they wanted to keep running Derrick Hill into DJ Reader, which doesn't work. The problem with the way the Chiefs run the ball with Pacheco hitting the edges is the fact that DJ Reader then is almost relegated to be useless because he's not going to make that tackle. And I think one adjustment that you see the Bengals do is something they did against the Ravens, where you had Cam Sample, a much bigger defensive end, will come into the game on first down and running situations to try to set that edge on that opposite side so it's not as easy to run through. But I think this is a difficult game for Cincinnati, and I think it's made more difficult by the fact that they don't know how good a Patrick Mahomes they're going to get. They don't know if they're going to get Patrick Mahomes, and you've got to prepare for 2 things here because the Chiefs might be bluffing everything here. Mahomes may not play. They might be bluffing everything, and he's really at 80 or 90%. He's dangerous. So the other thing is this. If Joe Burrow had a bad ankle right now, you would still, as a Bengal fan, be saying he'll figure out a way to win the game. Patrick Mahomes is the second best quarterback in the NFL. The top 2 are him and Joe Burrow. Nobody else is even close. Josh Allen proved that for us this last weekend. So when you look at that, to me, whenever you've got a dude like that, it's always an issue. And you're going to Kansas City, and I know they've done great in the past there, Joe. But I think Bengal fans need to dial it down a little bit because we haven't won anything yet, number one. We didn't win anything yet. We haven't won anything in 54 years. Everybody needs to chill the hell out. I was at a Goodwill in Lawrenceburg, Indiana today because my wife was looking for scraps for her work, didn't want to pay a lot of money. And I actually watched 3 grown men almost get in a fight because one of them said that he thought Kansas City was going to win the game. So then all of a sudden, everybody in the Goodwill starts chanting "Who Day" at this guy. They're getting in each other's faces. And then finally, calmer heads prevailed and the guy left. But I mean, this is ridiculous. Everybody needs to chill the hell out. You got to win 2 more games to be Super Bowl champions. Nothing's won yet. The other thing that worries me, Joe, is this. This is a very confident team. The way they conducted themselves after the Buffalo game, and I'm not talking just about Eli Apple, worries me that maybe they're a little full of themselves right now.
Well, I'll give you my take on how Cincinnati fans are acting. In the last 25, 30 years at least, and even this year, I think Bengals fans right now have a chip on their shoulder just like the team. When they go in to Buffalo, and they're clearly a better team than Buffalo, Cincinnati fans knew that. You knew that, Mike. I knew that. They're clearly a better team, and they go in at 6.5-point underdogs. It's a slap in the face to Cincinnati. The way that the way that the NFL, or the perceived idea that the NFL was selling AFC Championship tickets at a neutral site, which everybody sitting here knows that they would have done that anyway.
They had to. They were already selling tickets to the Bengals Jaguars.
But the perceived idea that Bengals fans get, especially the ignorance that comes out at that point, gives people something to talk about, and they feel like they're being slighted in a way. And
Tiffany Daniels says "Who Day." I say "Who Day" too, Tiffany.
Yeah,
Tiffany's a great boxing fan. Tiffany's awesome.
And so there's this perception around Cincinnati and around Bengal Nation that it's the Bengals against the world. And I think Zach Taylor has played in that and gave the team some motivation. The fans certainly feel that way. I don't think it's is as big as conspiracy as everybody wants to believe. But as a Bengals fan, I'm certainly going to play into it too, because it gets me pumped up. But you're absolutely right. I think at the end of the day, if you want to have, if you want to bring yourself back to reality, this is definitely a game that the Bengals can lose. They have to show up to play just like they did in Buffalo, and they have to show up to play just like they did the first time they played Kansas City this year. And I don't think this is going to be a game like the AFC Championship game last year, where the Bengals show up and they go down 21-3 in the first half and are able to come back to win the game. So I think that they got to show up, they got to play, they got to give 4 quarters, and they got to give 4 quarters in 13-degree weather.
Put it like this, Joe. Most Bengal fans have been fans for the last 25, 30 years, right?
Right.
I've been a Bengal fan since 1968. The year I was born is the year the Bengals were born. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen a lot of bad things. And, I sit there and watch this team, and it really makes me uncomfortable, because I sit there thinking the whole time, well, no matter what happens, they're going to win. And I'm not used to that. So right now, I never thought that I would see this again in my life after they win in 1988. So right now, I'm just going to chill out and watch and hope for the best. Dan, what's your take on this game?
Well, for me, if Kansas City is going to win this game, not only do they need a healthy Patrick Mahomes, but they need to get after Joe Burrow. One of the things Joe Burrow, I mean, you can say this, I guess, about any quarterback, really, even the great ones, but if you get in their face, they're not too good. And I say that
really
in the games that Joe Burrow's been sacked more than 5 times this season, they're 0-3. When he doesn't get sacked 5 times, they've only lost once. And Kansas City's got 55 sacks on the season, second most in the NFL, and Chris Jones is an absolute monster on the inside. Sure, he only makes plays, not only, but primarily makes plays in a passing game, but the interior of that Bengals O-line is in flux at the moment. I know we discussed the 3 offensive linemen last week. And
actually, the interior line is fine. The tackles are what you have to worry about as a Bengal fan. You still got 2 of your 3 starters there. Max Sharping, who's a veteran. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, Dan, I'm just going to say that stat is kind of misleading that you get of being sacked, 4 or 5 more times, because you're looking at the first game of the season and the second game of the season against the Steelers and the Cowboys. And I will tell you this, the Baltimore in the wild card round blitzed Joe Burrow exactly 6 times, pressured him exactly 6 times, and they quit doing it
Joe Burrow
because he was 6 of 6. When you send pressure now to Joe Burrow, he gets rid of the ball. He's the fastest in the NFL with getting rid of the ball and hitting his check down. And that's killing teams. Teams have stopped pressuring Joe Burrow. The biggest thing you could do to Joe Burrow is give him too much time. And I don't even think that doesn't even make sense. That's actually a stupid comment.
It
but
is.
Teams,
it really is.
Yeah. that's a dumb comment. I take that back. Teams have stopped pressuring Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow gets the ball out quick, and it ended up biting teams in the ass. So they don't lose that extra defender in the secondary to bring somebody. So in the times that he has been sacked or pressure, it's because he's climbing the pocket. One of the tackles did a shitty job in past, and they did a shitty job doing their job on that down. So Joe Burrow being sacked and pressuring Joe Burrow is not the issue, and it's not going to win you the game, because when you pressure Joe Burrow and you take away that DB and you send him after Joe Burrow, that leaves a hole in the middle of the field, and Joe Burrow is going to hit it. And he's
remember this. Last year, he got sacked 9 times in a playoff game and won the game. He got sacked 4 times in Kansas City and won the playoff game. Carl May says Jackson Carman at left tackle has got to kill the habit of one pop and stop. The good thing about the one pop and stop, Carl, is this, though. Jonah Williams doesn't even do the one pop and stop. He just stops. So hopefully Jonah Williams is still too hurt to play this weekend. I think Jackson Carman actually played well last week. But I also will say this. It's a lot easier to play well against Buffalo's defensive line than it is Kansas City's defensive line. Because when you get down to it, the Buffalo Bills are just a soft football team coached by a soft head coach with a soft defensive coordinator. Actually, if I'm in Buffalo and I paid that much money for Josh Allen, I'd fire everybody there. I think Sean McDermott's a good coach, but I think they're soft as hell. And the fact that I see the NFL honors come out with the 5 guys for Coach of the Year, and Sean McDermott is on the list, is absolutely disgusting. It's gross, as Dan would say. The guy was supposed to win the Super Bowl this year, and he just got his ass beat half to death in front of the entire world. And then we're going to act like, because of the DeMar Hamlin situation, and since he was such a sweetheart during it, that he's a great coach. He's a very good coach, but he's soft. His team is soft. I mean, they look like a JV offensive defensive line going against a varsity offensive and defensive line. It's absolutely sickening. So, Steve, what is your take on the Bengals Chiefs? Because I have a couple other things to add after this, but go ahead,
I'll
Steve.
be quick. I'll be quick. I can't add much more than you guys did. To me, as a kind of a more neutral type person, I think it boils down to what's been said about getting pressure on Joe Burrow and seeing how he reacts to it. I don't think he's immobile, but I don't know that mobility is a strength.
Really?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't watch the Bengals play regularly, so I may be stepping over a line there.
I think he's as mobile as Josh Allen. I think the difference is
we're not talking about Josh Allen. Josh Allen's done. So I don't.
But we're comparing
Josh Allen.
We're comparing mobility.
No, I didn't. Not to Josh Allen.
Okay. You just said he wasn't very mobile.
I said I don't know that mobility is strength. That's all. He's got other strengths that he's perfect at or near perfect, but I don't see mobility as his strength. So that's all. It's not a knock. It's just if they get after him, let's see how he handles it.
All right. When they get after him, against the blitz,
now you turned me into a long oration, which I really didn't want to do.
Turn you into what?
Things.
Well, I mean, because it's not the comments just way off. I mean, I could be wrong here. Dan, what's your opinion?
Well, what kind of stupid comment is that? You tell me my comment's way off, and then the next word's out of your mouth, I could be wrong.
Because I always could be wrong.
Let me talk.
Put it like this. I know I'm not wrong.
So you can't do it. You can't let somebody talk without interrupting.
Not when you're going to say something absolutely asinine. It shows look like they don't even watch the damn game.
We all make asinine comments on this show.
I don't.
All right. Oh, yeah. Okay. There's an asinine comment right there.
You couldn't even spell asinine if you spotted you the ass and the nine.
Go
ahead.
I like that. I've never heard that before.
Neither have I. It didn't make any sense either, by the way. But it sounded good coming out.
The other part of it, obviously, is Mahomes. Is he healthy? Is he not healthy? An anecdote I'll just kind of leave by and be done with it all is I sat today, it was on Instagram or Twitter. It was the final 5 minutes of John Elway's 98-yard march to beat the Browns. And I just saw the way that Elway invented shit all 98 yards going down the field. You know, he was so spontaneous as to how he reacted, and he read his defense and he played the defense. He played exactly what the defense gave him. He saw it and took advantage of it. Mahomes has that capability.
So does Burrow.
Huh?
So does Burrow.
Okay, but I'm telling you, I talked about Burrow already. Mahomes has that capability, and that's scary because Mahomes can create things. I think Mahomes would be that'd be a strength up on Mahomes over Burrows in terms of just creativity from what I've seen.
See, I think creativity gets you beat as a quarterback.
Oh,
you might win every once in a while that way, but the majority of quarterbacks that were like that, the Brett Favre's, they don't win a whole lot of championships.
But we're talking one game. We're not talking a season. So, in one game.
And in a playoff game, those quarterbacks are the ones that usually try to do too much, and they lose the game trying to do too much.
We'll see if Mahomes has the maturity to play within himself, play within his injury, and to be able to make things happen against a strong defense by the Bengals, and we'll see what Mahomes can do against the pressure if Kansas City can put him on it. To me, that's the key things that I'll be watching for watching the game.
Now, a key thing for me that I don't think anybody brings up is the first time the Bengals played the Chiefs this year. And even if you look at the AFC Championship game last year where Joe Mixon gashed them, especially the second half in the overtime, the Bengals' ability to run the ball. You talked about Chris Jones, who can almost be a liability if the other team wants to line up and run the ball, Dan. Samaje Perine, 20 carries, 106 yards, 15 carries, 106 yards, something like that, the first time these two teams played. You've got Joe Mixon. You've got Perine. I mean, I think everybody reads too much into this because the Bengals last week won that game because of their physicality on defense and on offense and the fact that they could pound the ball. I think whichever team runs the ball better, may sound crazy, will win this game.
I don't think that's crazy at all, Mike.
I don't either, Mike. I think it's a great observation.
Yeah, I mean, I said it last week, and it's an old saying, and no one likes them, but an analogy. But you got to be able to run the ball in the postseason. It's great to have a quarterback who could throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. It's great to have a flashy passing offense with a lot of weapons and whatever on the outside. But you got to be able to play defense, and you got to be able to run the ball. The Bengals defense has been elite the last 10 to 12 weeks. They've been on fire. I don't think that's going to change. And Mike, it's not crazy, man. If Mixon can run the ball like he did last week, Cincinnati wins this game very easily, I think. If they can establish
the key to that is this, and what we saw last week in Buffalo is Burrow comes out hot. They go down, score 14 points.
Mm-hmm.
It changes the way the Bills have to play defense. Luckily, the Bills don't change the way they play defense. They play a soft cover too. Tony Romo is the worst announcer in the history of announcers. You know, I hear Bengal fans bitch about Chris Collinsworth. Dude, Chris Collinsworth is like freaking, I mean, the greatest announcer of all time compared to Tony Romo. The stuff Tony Romo says is absolutely asinine. And, I mean, he is in love with Josh Allen just as much as Chris Collinsworth is with Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's absolutely sickening to listen to this bozo call this game. I mean, number one, how can he talk about elite quarter? Did he ever win a playoff game? I know Carl, who's listening, knows if he won a playoff game or not because Carl's a Cowboys fan.
And I'm a Lions fan, and the Cowboys beat the Lions in the playoffs.
Oh, look at this. Carl thinks Romo is awesome. Now, that has to be a joke. We're not talking about him as a player, which he wasn't awesome. He was very good, and I think he's underrated for how good he was. But he is a terrible announcer. I mean, the comments he makes are just unbelievably stupid. And I can't believe Carl would even say that Romo is awesome. I don't even think you can type that. Facebook may take this show down just because of all the false information that just came out by Carl. All right. We got to pick the game. The Bengals are favored by 1.5, Steve. Who do you like here?
I think the uncertainty in Mahomes is a game breaker. I just don't know. I'll take the 1.5. I'll give up the 1.5 and take the Bengals.
Well, I will. I like how he seems to have a crystal ball before each play, Carl said. I think that was the first year, the first few games he did. I think now he is trying to say something insightful. There was 4 times in that game where he said, watch, this Bills receiver is going to go in motion. And he didn't go in motion. So Tony Romo's an ass. But we could have Shannon Sharp on, so it could always be worse. All right.
You know, Skip. Yeah, Skip.
Yeah, Skip.
Yeah,
I got a big-ass horse mouth, and I'm going to,
Just
Skip's an old white dude that just tries to say stupid shit to make people hate him so people watch, and it works. All right, Steve's taking the Bengals, giving him points. I will also remind people this. Patrick Mahomes was completely healthy the last 3 times these teams played. The Bengals won all 3 games. Dan, who do you like here?
I'm wearing my Priest Holmes jersey, and my love for Patrick Mahomes is well established on this show. But we're in the business of being right. And this line at -1.5 should be a little higher. I'm going to take Cincinnati, and I don't want Cincy to win. No offense, Bengals Nation. But
why don't you want Cincy to win, you communist?
Yeah, what an idiot.
Until Mahomes and the Chiefs can get it done, until their defense shows me that they can step up and make plays against this elite offense and this elite quarterback, I believe it when I see it. I haven't seen it.
But why don't you like the Bengals? Why are you such an asshole? We're all your friends. We're Bengals fans, and
I like the Bengals. That's
But you want the Chiefs to win, even though they won it like 2-3 years ago.
Honestly, Mike, the biggest reason I want
So
Cincinnati
you don't have
to
to shave
fall
your beard.
no, is so I don't gotta hear anything else about Joe Burrow being the best quarterback.
Well, he is the best quarterback. That's
Everything
unquestioned.
else, I hate it.
It's
I don't want to hear
unquestioned.
it.
That's just because you're in love with Patrick Mahomes.
Maybe him and his Kermit voice, but I'm going to take
He
Cincinnati.
looks like Kermit too. I mean, let's face it. He does. He looks like. I mean, my wife doesn't really watch football. She comes in and I'm watching, Kermit Mahomes' press conference, and she goes, "He sounds and looks just like Kermit."
No,
But
like
unfortunately, his wife is not as pretty as Miss Piggy. All right, Joe, who do you like here?
I don't even know if I need to answer this, Mike. I'm gonna obviously I think the Bengals are gonna take this, and not because I'm homering it. For all the reasons we discussed, I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna take the Bengals, and I actually think that the line should be a little bit higher. So I'll give up. I'll happily give up the 1.5 and take the Bengals in this.
I think this: if Mahomes was healthy, the line would be right. If Mahomes is not healthy, I think the line should probably. I mean, put it like I'm not going to bet this line if I don't know how healthy Mahomes is, unless I'm getting at least 6 points.
Damn.
I mean, seriously.
I mean, for what it's worth, Mahomes isn't on the injury report at all. And he was a full participant.
Because they're faking this shit. I already need to explain this to you, Dan.
No, I know, but for what it's worth.
How do you have a high ankle sprain and you're not on an injury report 3 days later? It's complete bullshit. If he has a high ankle sprain, he's hurt. And them not listing him on the injury report is complete and utter bullshit. So they either lied about the injury to begin with, or he's hurt and they're lying about him not being hurt. Either way, it's bullshit.
But that's nice, Joe. Way to use bad language all the time. And I'm tired of the bullshit, too. I'm taking the Bengals to win this game by 168 points. Now,
128.
169.
Yeah. All right. Next up, the 49ers at the Eagles. I think we can all agree that right now the Bengals and Eagles look like the best teams. But we know the 49ers and Chiefs are both good enough to get this done. The 49ers are going to Philadelphia, Steve. What is your big concern here? What's the thing you're looking for most to decide who wins this game?
Jalen Hurts' ability to play under pressure in a game of this magnitude. I mean, this is by far the biggest professional game he'll have played in. And I think he's a up-and-comer. He's a good quarterback, no doubt about it. But we'll see how he handles the pressure in this game. San Francisco's quarterback, what's his name? I can't think of his name.
Brock Purdy.
Yeah, but I think he's just numb to what the hell's going on to him right now. I
think he played like shit last week.
Yeah, I think he did too. And it may say something about the strength of that football team that he can play like shit, and they still beat a better than average Dallas Cowboys team. And so, but to me, the biggest thing I'm going to watch for is Hurts, how he handles the pressure. And if he reacts well and plays well, I think Philadelphia's got this game. If he doesn't, I think San Francisco makes it a game. And San Francisco's talented. They're very talented, as is Philadelphia. So it comes down to big plays then. But I think the key to me is the way Hurts plays.
I would say this. It's also the key to me is how Purdy plays. And real quick, Mr. Andy Steve makes a great comment here. He says, I don't think Mahomes could renew a franchise like Burrow has. Mahomes walked onto a playoff team with a Hall of Fame coach. Burrow is the best quarterback in the NFL. Mr. Andy Steve, you can comment whenever you want because it sounds like you're a brilliant individual when it comes to this. Brilliant. Right now, I want to remind everybody, betting.net finds the best promotions, offers, and bonus codes. Will you shut up? We get paid by betting.net. I'm trying to read a commercial, Steve.
No. You get paid by betting.net. The rest of us don't get jack shit.
Well, actually, Dan and Joe could, but they decided not to write, just like you did. So quit bitching. Betting.net finds the best promotions, offers, and bonus codes so you don't have to. Head over to the website now to take advantage of things like free bets and matching deposits. The only reason I'm the one that gets paid here is I'm the only one that can read. All right, so my takeaway on this game is this. I think the Eagles are the better team. But games are won by matchups, right? Not always who the better team is. Some teams match up better than other teams do. Tiffany Daniels says, we all are funny. Thank you, Tiffany. I don't know. Were we going for funny or serious? But my concern here with the Eagles is this. They have a great defensive front. They can get after the quarterback. You're playing Kyle Shanahan. The Philadelphia Eagles run defense is not good. They gave up 4.6 yards per carry this year. I think they were 9th from last, which would put them, by my calculations, 22 or 23rd against the run. And Kyle Shanahan showed us last week that I don't think he really trusts Brock Purdy in these situations. It reminds me a little bit about Jimmy Garoppolo when they beat the Packers and he threw the ball 8 times in that game because they just kept running the ball down their throat, the Packers' throat. The way the 49ers win this game to me is to run the ball, give all kind of motion, pull guys out of position, run the ball, crease them. I think they can do that here, Dan, and win the game that way. I think it's the only way they can win the game unless Jalen Hurts just craps the bed. And that is possible because Jalen Hurts last week played the Giants, which is not a playoff team. But when you're going to compare quarterbacks, I'm going to trust Jalen Hurts more in this situation than I am Brock Purdy.
And listen, I've been the conductor on that Purdy Brock train since, I don't know what, early December at least, something like that.
And Big Carl says McCaffrey is going to run over Philadelphia. Go ahead.
Now we got 2 physical teams, 2 elite ground games, 2 elite defenses. What it's going to come down to in this one is which quarterback doesn't turn the ball over. And if it gets to the point where it's a low-scoring game, Philadelphia doesn't really do too well in low-scoring games. They excel more when it's a shootout. And on the flip side, San Francisco, I don't think San Francisco wants this to get into a shootout. I think they're very comfortable playing, making it a 17-14 win, and they're more than happy to take that. But this is the game I'm excited for this weekend. And I'm very curious to see if Brock Purdy can buck the trend of NFL rookie quarterbacks starting in the conference title game. Spoiler alert, the other guys who played are just can't. They couldn't win. It's Sean King, Ben Roethlisberger, Joe Flacco, and Mark Sanchez. The only rookie quarterbacks to start in their respective conference title games.
But in their defense, who did you say again? It was Sean King,
Roethlisberger, Flacco, and Sanchez.
Well, 2 of them eventually won Super Bowls, though.
Yes, they did.
3 of the 4 got back to championship games.
Yes, they did. But as rookies, they combined to throw 9 picks to just 4 touchdowns, and they went 0-4. So I'm curious to see. This is a whole different game. Steve said something to this effect when you brought the game up at first. This is not the regular season. Hell, this isn't even the divisional round. Each round you go in the playoffs, you get harder competition. And Mike, you said it leading into this. You think the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team, in at least in the NFC. So you're playing the best team in the NFC. This isn't like playing Seattle. This isn't like playing Dallas. Just not quite right. You're talking about.
Remember this: Seattle put up 17 or 20 points in a row against the 49ers earlier in the year. Because right. Seattle can throw the ball, though.
True.
I mean, DK Metcalf's not bad.
Oh, no. DK Metcalf is right. But it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. Steve was onto something on that front, I think. But on the flip side, I think it's more on Brock Purdy because, we know what Jalen Hurts can do. All right.
Not in this situation, we don't.
Thus far, this season, regular season.
But you just said it was different. So we don't know how either one of these guys are going to respond.
Each of these teams is probably the hardest competition either one of these teams has played all season. It's definitely the toughest team Philadelphia has played all year.
Yeah. San Francisco played Kansas City and they got their doors blown off.
No, still.
I think they had a lot of guys out in that game, though. So.
But also, we can't have Brock Purdy having a Jimmy Garoppolo game like he did last week. It's fine if you're not turning the ball over, but no touchdowns, no real threat through the air. It's give it to Kittle and hope for the best or bust. That's not going to work against Philadelphia. They have some excellent coverage linebackers, and their pressure. They got 4 guys on that defense with at least 10 sacks. So
yeah, but I'll say this also. I think the way Kyle Shanahan runs this offense is basically don't screw this up by throwing. They're going to throw very short to mid-range passes. You've got 3 elite playmakers in Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle. There's no reason to even put him in harm's way of getting sacked. Just get the ball out quick, run the ball. If it works, you go to the Super Bowl. If it doesn't work, you lose the game.
And San Francisco has to be careful on the right side of that offensive line. Trent Williams might be one of the best offensive tackles of all time. The man is well into his 30s and may very well be still the best left tackle in football, arguably. But when he's healthy, he's in the conversation for best offensive lineman in the league. So that left side is set. But that right side of that O-line, if they played like they did last week, it ain't going to be pretty.
Yeah. And the other thing is this, though, too. You have to be able to successfully run the ball, Joe, to beat San Francisco. And I think what we saw last week where Dallas fell short is they helped feed into the way San Francisco wants to play. They only had 16 carries between Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard until they got hurt. I think the Eagles have to show patience. They have to keep running the ball even when it's not working, if that makes any sense.
No, I think it makes absolute sense. I think that
That's why I'm the host, guys.
That's right. He knows his shit, Dan. He knows his shit. He'll tell you about it.
At least somebody does.
But
Google me,
yeah.
bitch. Go ahead.
Don't cuss on this show, Mike.
It's my show. I'll cuss if I want. You guys can't cuss.
Anyway, I mean, I don't know if we're all in agreement here. At least my thinking of the 49ers even being in the NFC Championship game, it's because Dak Prescott and head coaching allowed the 49ers to get there, because I don't think the 49ers are a better team than the Cowboys. I don't. I think terrible play got by the Cowboys got the 49ers in the position that they're in.
Yeah, but don't you think that's why the Eagles won the division? I mean, the Cowboys are a talented, really good team.
It is.
And by the way, is Nick Sirianni, is it just my imagination, or is he like the biggest asshole in the NFL? When I watch him, I think this dude could be Eli Apple's daddy.
Yeah. So
Nice.
I think I think the Eagles probably obviously have the edge in this game. I don't think Brock Purdy played well last week at all. I don't see him playing well this weekend. We're still looking at the quarterback that was taken the last pick in the draft. And, I know sometimes you could find a diamond in the rough there, but I also think that, every week he realizes more and more what's actually going on. And I think we saw the beginning last week, and I think there's a high likelihood that he comes out this week and completely shits the bed. So, we'll see. I could possibly be very wrong. Maybe I will be, but at the end of the day, I think that after Sunday night or Sunday afternoon about the start of the Bengals game, I think every commentator on national television is going to be talking about how Birdie just kind of shit the bed.
I think it's possible both quarterbacks could, just because of the pass rush. As we said, any quarterback that's getting sacked repeatedly is usually going to lose. I also think this: if anybody can do this with a quarterback, it's Shanahan, because of his style of offense. All right, Steve.
Hey, one thing. Let's not forget, Purdy is, Dan, what is he, 7-0 as a quarterback in the NFL?
Something like that.
Yeah, he's undefeated.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to give him some props for that. There aren't any or very few rookie quarterbacks who've stepped up and gone undefeated their first 7 games in the NFL. That tells me the guy's got a little moxie. And, he did not have a good game last week, yet he still found a way to keep his team in the game and let the other players do their thing and
Yeah,
win the
that-
game.
Dak Prescott.
That's got to be something that you pour into the blender and give the mix. The guy is undefeated.
All right, but I will say this: he is undefeated. Okay.
Okay.
But how many of those 7 games did he win against teams above 500?
Above 500?
2.
Because the way I look at it,
Seattle
he
and,
he beat what? The Dolphins, the
Seattle
Buccaneers,
and Falcons.
the Seahawks. And let me remind you, I mean, this is not pretty. He beat the Commanders. He beat the Raiders. He beat
Ugly.
the Cardinals. He
Ugly.
beat the Seahawks again. I mean,
So
to me,
So 2 teams.
he didn't beat one legitimate playoff team. Well, the Seahawks, I think, are a legitimate playoff team when you add an extra team. I mean, they were a hell of a lot better than the 7th-seed Dolphins, who were a
I was
mess.
just going to say, yep, better than Miami.
But the problem is this.
What wasn't Miami in the playoff hunt most of the season?
They were in the playoffs, Steve, but they weren't any
Yeah,
good.
yeah. They were definitely in the playoffs.
Okay.
Steve, I'll say this: Brock Purdy did less to keep his team in the game than Dak Prescott did to keep his team out of the game. So,
Yeah. Brock Purdy just didn't make any mistakes. But you know what? Once again, the 49ers win that way.
And but Mike, you're exactly right. What you said is he didn't take the win away from his team, and San Francisco is a freaking talented football team. He's got a lot of talent around him that, as you said, if he doesn't turn the ball over and plays mediocre, I don't know. You know, the guy's undefeated. I don't know.
Well, to me, I think this game just comes down to Jalen Hurts because the
Yeah,
Philadelphia Eagles secondary is elite.
That's how I opened the whole dialogue
But wait,
on this whole game.
I thought you
My
said
first
Brock Purdy.
comment was, it's
No, he
all on
said Hurts.
Jalen Hurts' shoulders.
Okay. Yeah, but this is why. To me, this is why. That's because the Eagles have an elite secondary. The 49ers do not. The 49ers' weakness on their defense is their secondary. And with the receivers, A.J. Brown and those guys, they could have a huge day here, which if they do, the game turns into a shootout. They win. I'll go ahead. I'll pick this first. I'm going to take the Eagles. I think the 49ers can win it by running the ball. But my concern is if Jalen Hurts is as good as he looked during this season, the Eagles are going to win this game because I don't think the 49ers defensively can defend their wide receivers. Now, I think San Francisco could come out and run the ball at 9 or 10 yards a pop and have a shot to win it. But I'm picking the Eagles because of this. I see 2 ways the Eagles can win. I see one way the 49ers can win. And when you go to 2-1, Eagles are at home. It means nothing. I think home field advantage, home court, home ice is the biggest joke in the world. If you're a professional athlete, you're an elite athlete playing at a professional level, you don't care where you're playing at. And most of the time, the best team wins. So I think that is very overrated. I'm going to take the Eagles to win this game, and I think they will cover the spread. Dan?
Now, before I make my pick, I just want to throw out 2 quick stats of historical relevance here to directly address what you just said, Mike, about the home field advantage. Now, I tend to agree with you on that front. I think we're in the NFL, we're in the professional.
Real quick, before you give me what the record is, the thing is this. What people have to remember is probably 80% of the time, if you have home field advantage, it's because you're the better team. Not all the time, because sometimes schedules can throw that off. Maybe the other team's a little bit better, or maybe the other team get to play Buffalo. But what I'm saying here is it really means nothing. The reason home teams win more is because they're usually a little bit better.
Well, to that end, 2 quick stats. 1, in the NFL, teams that play on Saturday, the weekend before the conference championship weekend, they're 17-9 over the last 13 years. Okay. And then moving on to the second one, in terms of the AFC and NFC Championship, the home team has won 7 of the past 9 conference title games in the NFC. I'm going to take Philadelphia in this one. I am I was really, really close to picking San Francisco.
Yeah, and I'm cheering for the Niners because I think it's an easier
Oh, my.
opponent for the Bengals.
Oh, well, I'm cheering for the 49ers because I don't want to see Philly win it a second time in the last few years.
Well, I mean, their coach is an asshole and their fans are drunken idiots. I mean, so what the hell's the difference? I mean, Buffalo and Philadelphia ought to play for the Bad Bands Championship.
You know,
Agreed.
actually, I will say one thing about Philly fans. I went to a Lions Philadelphia game in Philly a few years ago, and the fans were really
Yeah,
nice.
because you're a freaking Lions fan.
I was gonna
There's
say.
no threat.
Yeah,
They feel sorry for you. I mean,
Actually,
they're probably still talking about that poor dumb son of a bitch that was wearing the Barry Sanders jersey that day.
actually, back then it was a Roy Williams jersey. But
Get you
Yeah,
Billy
really.
Sims. Look at, don't you know about Billy Sims?
Billy Sims,
Yeah.
fuck Billy Sims. Didn't he curse us when he said we wouldn't win another championship?
No. Everybody said you'd never win another championship.
Yeah, hold on. There was a guy who, like in the 50s, said the Lions wouldn't win another
Billy
chip.
Sims played from 1980 till he busted his knee up in like 1984, 85. So Billy Sims, I don't even think was alive when the Lions last won. Actually, I think that Methuselah wasn't even alive the last time that the Lions won a championship.
Hold on a second. What's this guy's name? Hold on. I'm gonna look it up right
Billy
now.
Sims was as great
Bobby-
as Barry Sanders.
Bobby Lane,
Bobby Lane was the only great quarterback you've ever had.
1957. Bobby Lane. He's the one who cursed us. He said we wouldn't win
That
another
guy.
championship.
He's also
That guy.
this is the thing. You're not a Lions fan.
Who's Bobby
If
Lane?
you
though?
refer to Bobby Lane as that guy, because Bobby Lane is the greatest Detroit Lion that ever lived.
He's not Barry Sanders. Wait a second.
I know, because he actually won world championships.
Hold on. Didn't Dick Nitrate Lane play for the Lions too?
He would be there too, but they won Super Bowls because of Bobby Lane. You go greatest Lions of all time. Barry Sanders is there. Billy Sims, to me, dude, he wasn't too far off of Barry Sanders. Billy Sims was an absolute stud. I mean, he took the Lions organization and completely turned it around. They hadn't made the playoffs since 1970. He got there in 1980, was a rookie of the year. They went 9-7. They lost to Tampa Bay by, I think, a touchdown on the last game of the season, or would have made the playoffs. Then by 1983, he's got them in the playoffs. Eddie Murray misses a 48-yard field goal, or that Lions team would have been in the NFC Championship game because of Billy Sims. Billy Sims was a stud. You've never heard of Alex Karras, who was, Steve will attest to this, one of the greatest actors in modern film history. You know, he was Mongo in Blazing Saddles. And then you got Lem Barney, Hall of Famer. I mean, you need to learn this stuff, Dan. If you want to act like a Lions fan, which is what you do, you act like a Lions fan because you don't know the history of the team. I can tell you the score of almost every Bengals game ever played before 1990. I don't remember recent stuff. But.
Yeah, I'm lacking on my my history thing. History in sports has never been my forte.
Yeah, I know, but luckily you don't want to be an NFL reporter, so it shouldn't hurt you that much.
Yeah, how dare you not know about a 48-yard field goal prior to Vietnam, Dan?
It was
Shame on
1983, Dan, or Steve,
Well,
or
well,
Joe.
actually-
Jesus.
Vietnam was
Whatever.
in 1990.
Two fun things about this before we move on because the Lions suck. One,
Did you pick the game yet?
until 2006, the last time a major pro team from Michigan won a chip, or in football, won
1990,
a
Detroit
chip.
Pistons. Oh.
This was the last time.
The Michigan Panthers, 1983 USFL.
Yeah.
Throw out a USFL stat.
Yeah,
USFL,
USFL.
1983. They were led by who was the quarterback? Was it Bobby Hebert?
cares?
Anthony Carter was the
Yeah,
wide
nobody
receiver. John Corker was the linebacker. They beat the Philadelphia Stars 24-17 at Mile High Stadium in 1984 or 83. I'm sorry.
Well, that's our USFL stat for the day, folks. Be sure to tweet that and tag the
That's why I'm the dude that gets paid here. All right.
That's right.
You can't even spell USFL, Joe. I mean, Steve. I mean, Dan.
Whatever.
I mean,
That's
all
why you
three
get
of
paid.
you. No,
That's why you
three
get
of you
paid.
can spell USFL.
So, all that being said, the Lions suck. I'm done with them. Bobby Lane can suck it. I'm going to go Philadelphia.
So no Detroit Lions fan would ever say Bobby Lane can suck it. Steve, Dan can suck it. Can you pick this game?
Are you talking to me?
You're Steve.
No,
I
the
know
other
I'm
Talking to
getting
me?
confused on whose name
Are you
here.
talking to me?
And I'm pretty sure I've asked you 2 questions, but addressed somebody else and forgot your name, but then I've addressed them that way too.
That's all right.
So, Steve, who do you like, Philadelphia or San Francisco? The
I
Eagles are
am
giving 2.5.
I am going to take San Francisco because I think San Francisco will make fewer mistakes in this game than Philadelphia will.
All right. So my concern also of Kyle Shanahan is he's really screwed up some big games with big leagues before. Joe,
Yeah,
what do you
but
think?
Mike, you
Go
you made a great comment when you just said if San Francisco is smart enough to not overtax Purdy and just dump the ball off and use their short passing game like a running attack and just get the ball in McCaffrey's hands or Debo's hands as quick as you possibly can and take your 7 or 8 yards and march down the field, I think San Francisco's up in this game.
Well,
I
think
a pissing match on long ball with Philadelphia, they aren't going to get it done.
no, but the thing is this, that means the Eagles have 2 ways to win. The 49ers have one.
Have one. You're right. Yeah.
But I do like the 49ers way to win because I love, if I'm coaching a team, to just go out and just run the ball down your throat, break your, just destroy you mentally and make you wish you were never born. That's how you play football.
They're capable of doing that.
I know. But the Eagles are also capable of throwing for 400 yards on their DBs, which if that happens, the game's over. So, all right, Joe, you have not picked the game yet.
Yeah, I definitely like San Francisco's way to win this game as well. I think that we're all off here talking about this being an offensive game. And
I'm
talking
not. No,
about,
I never said. I think the game would be 14-13.
Right. Yeah, talking about Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts, I actually think they're going to be the least relevant people in this game. And having said that, I'm going to take the 49ers and the points.
There it is.
So me and Dan will pick up the game there. I'm hoping I'm wrong there, though, actually. Hey, right now, Joe, you should go sign up with stake.us and use our exclusive promo code TGT Social, capital letters, to secure your unique 5% rake back bonus. Do you like the way I said rake back bonus?
Rake it back, baby.
Rake it back. I want my rakey back, rakey back, rakey back.
It's time to rake it back.
All right, so we've almost filled a complete hour. See, Steve, Joe, I told you we'd have plenty to talk about.
Hey, I'm going to Kansas City.
Hey, and we talked about the Eagles game as well as we talked about the Bengals game. That impressed me too.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard it's going to be cold as shit at game time.
All right, so I always thought shit was warm. I'm just going to go ahead and say that now because I've always heard people say it is cold as shit. But when shit comes out, though, it's warm.
What happened? How did we get here?
Because Joe made a comment that makes no sense. And
you know what I meant? It's something that people say.
It's cold as ice. How about that?
It's to put emphasis on what I said, Mike. It wasn't literal. Obviously, it wasn't literal. And if it sits in the cold long enough, it is cold. So that's bullshit too.
Yeah, but the good thing, if it sits in the cold long enough and freezes, you can just pick it up with your bare hand and throw it away.
You're pissing me off as much as Dan.
You know what? You know where I live, dog. Come get some.
Yeah, let them know, Mike.
Come on. Come right now. We'll fight on air.
Right now.
Yo, Mike might be old as shit, but he'll roundhouse you.
What did you say? What did you say, Dan?
Well, what happened? I called you a geriatric, but yo, you would roundhouse him right in the face, like right Walker Texas Ranger.
Wait a second, Dan. I mean, I think I got a bigger issue with you right now. Joe didn't call me geriatric and old.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm on Team Mike. What do you mean?
I'll tell you, right now, if me and Steve got in a tag team match with you two, me and Steve have been in the hospital recently. And we would still beat the hell out of you guys just from intelligence.
We couldn't do anything, Steve, because Steve, it would be like a handicap match. It'd be 2-on-1. Steve's not physically fit right now.
Look, abuse of the elderly is a crime, Mike.
It's frowned upon.
See, you're going to continue. You're going to continue.
And we're not.
Now you're calling us elderly.
Dan and I are not felons.
Are you calling me elderly?
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Well, you can't be a felon, Joe. You're a detective.
Yeah.
If you got in trouble, your boys would cover it up. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We don't live in Chicago, Cook County. It'll be all right.
So wait, so hold on. Do we have one more segment for the show, or
do you want another segment?
I would love the other segment.
What's the other segment?
You mentioned something about award winners.
You want MVP?
Yo, let's do it.
Do it. Go ahead and give us your Patrick Mahomes feel.
Yo, you already know it's Patty Mahomes. That's my homie, Patrick. Let's do it. It's him.
All right.
Fuck me.
So who do you think should be the MVP, Joe?
Joe Burrow.
I agree. It's Joe Burrow. All right. All right, Steve, what do you think about the MVP?
I'm thinking. I mean, I can't pick Mahomes just because they lost to the Colts.
Yeah, but that was. Hey, real quick, we got a question from Carl Whalen. Crazy thought, betting on a Bengals game. Got Bengals winning 34-27 and 31-24 with huge payouts. Do you see it as being a high-scoring affair? I really don't. I mean, I think 34-27, 31-24 is pushing it. I mean, last year we saw a 27-24 game. I think this game's in the 20 to 27 points. I think it'll be a close game. I think there is a chance here, though, if Mahomes really does have issues moving around. The Bengals pass rush is as good as anybody in the NFL's. They may not have the numbers of the Philadelphia Eagles, but what the Bengals have developed is a rotation is like 7 or 8 deep on the defensive line, which means they get stronger as the game goes along. The other thing is last year when Mahomes was healthy, they used Sam Hubbard, if you remember, Joe, on the last few series to spy. He got a couple sacks. Maybe you don't have to do that now. And I don't know. I don't see a game as high scoring as the winner in the 30s, unless this is a blowout, Joe.
So what I'll say, Carl, is that the Bengals and the Chiefs are certainly capable of high-scoring games. We've seen it out of both. But the times that we see both the Chiefs and the Bengals score high-scoring games, it's when they're pushing the ball down the field, which neither team does because most teams play a too-high safety against them, and they hit a lot of check and short zone routes to the middle of the field, which take time off the clock. The Buffalo-Cincinnati game last week was one of the fastest games I've ever been to for that reason. And the Bengals played great, and they still only scored 27 points. Now, I think if they're pushing the ball down the field and you get into a shootout and both teams are playing that way, it could certainly be a high-scoring game, but I don't see that happening with the way both of these teams play defense. They both have good red zone defenses, and they're both going to play a too-high safety against each other. So I don't think that a high-scoring game is probably going to be very probable in this game. I think you're probably looking at a 27-17, 27-24 game on Sunday.
Yeah. Ed, thanks for the questions. Thanks for listening to Carl. There's a lot of Carls tonight. It's like Carl's night. It's like we're in Carlsbad.
Yes.
Yeah. MVP, I don't care because it's meaningless. I really think that.
What about Coach of the Year? Is it between Shanahan or Dable or bust, or is it somebody else?
Yeah, it's Dable or Peterson. I mean, it has to be because they took teams that were basically last place teams last year, and they both made it to the playoffs. Actually, with the playoff performance, which I know nobody counts, I would go Doug Peterson. He had to clean up the Urban Meyer mess.
Yeah, I don't like either one of those.
Well, you're an idiot.
Well, you know what, Mike? That's fine, but I don't like either one of those.
I know you're fine with that.
Hey, you know what? I actually think
Oh no, he did a me. He did a me to Joe.
What do you think? Don't give me no Zach Taylor because they were supposed to be.
No, I'm not saying Zach Taylor. The Detroit Lions coach, I think, should be in the running for the way he turned around.
He should
that
be in the
program.
running, but he didn't.
He's not even in the running.
I know. I said I think he should be.
I think. How about this? I think
whatever, Dan.
I think they should have easily made the playoffs with the team they have.
They should have.
Yeah.
They should have.
They almost did.
Hey, put it like this. How about this? The reason I think the Giants are better than the Lions, I got like 3 friends that are Giants fans. All right. I know I shouldn't hang out with them, but I do.
They suck.
And the thing is this, all 3 of them said, and this is after they beat the Vikings, we think the Lions are better than the Giants. The Lions played the Giants, blew them out in New York at the end of the season. So
That's
to me, Dan Campbell, last half of the season, he'd be in the conversation. First half of the season, that defense was a mess. You know, they had some injuries. To me, Doug Peterson and Brian Daboll did the best jobs because they had the worst situations to be in. Dan Campbell had no pressure. He's in Detroit. Detroit's a city of basically losers.
You're not wrong, unless we're talking the Pistons. But even
Well, that was
then,
2004. That was over 20 years ago, or 20 years ago.
almost. Yeah, damn. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Gross.
that was 2004 or 5 when they beat the Lakers. The
goodness.
Detroit Tigers last won a World Series in what, 1984?
Okay, we all agree. Nobody gives a shit about the whole state of Michigan.
Yeah, except for the Wolverines because they own Columbus, Ohio.
Shut up. Shut up. I wish I could click you off.
All right, real quick before we wrap this up, Steve, are we going to do an Indiana basketball show tomorrow?
Sure.
Okay. We will do that show. You want to do it during the day? Which would be much easier because I got a Bengals show tomorrow night.
You just have to give me a call. Check my schedule.
Okay. So look out for the Indiana basketball show. Cincinnati Bengals weekly show, I believe, will be tomorrow night. Myself, Ty Robinson, former Cincinnati Bengal Joe Kelly. And right there, you can see Dan with Mr. Pineapple. They will be getting married. They will be turn it upside down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, baby.
You like that, Joe?
Yeah.
I'm going to send you a picture of this after the show.
What are you going to be? No, I won't say that. All right, guys. Remember, you can follow us at Grueling Truth. You can follow Joe Spillman at
I don't know. Sluggo 4150.
Sluggo 4150.
I don't know. Dan, what's my Twitter handle?
Jabroni69. That's your
Jabroni69.
And Dan is at Dan and his significant.
I am on Twitter and Instagram. It's at DB Talking Sports. D is in Dan, B is in bottom bitch.
D is in douche, B is in bag. I've explained this to you. And please stop using sexual references. You know, a lot of people are impressionable and don't know what they are yet because they haven't looked down yet. All right. And Steve Risley, you can follow at SRisley34. You can follow me with the Grueling Truth at Grueling Truth. Make sure you like, subscribe, and multiply. I don't know. That's as subtract my whatever. And make sure you go find the best place to bet for you. Betting.net offers expert news reviews for every online sportsbook casino in your state. Make sure you check them out at betting.net. We will be back next Wednesday night. We'll talk NFL awards then, guys. We'll review the conference championship games and get ready for Super Bowl 57. Correct, Joe?
Yeah, correct.
Is it? All right.
I might be back next Wednesday.
She'll be back. So for Joe Spillman, Dan Kornhauser, the legendary Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to the Grueling Truth.
The Grueling Truth.
The Grueling Truth.
Old.
Where the legends speak.